Was that mince? What? What happened?
They're saying a college in Vermont, they hazed this girl by waterboarding her and using pliers and a lighter to blanch her.
Oh, jeez.
That's literally like a war crime.
Yeah.
It's really bad shit. How many player strikes has there been in MLB history?
I don't know. 3 or 4.
The first one happened on this day.
Did you say I-10 westbound or I-12 westbound? Because I know he meant 10. Oh, snap! .606 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, off and running. Brian here with you, Jake producing. Thank you for hopping on board this morning. Got a busy show for you today. Yes, you heard the forecast from Marissa. Yes, that's where we're going to start in just a minute. Let me give you the rundown, though, or the guest list, I should say. Want to talk inflation? RNC National Spokesman Paris Dennard going to be on board at 6:35 this morning. Inflation is being compared to where it was in the 70s. Can't wait to talk with Paris about, I mean, if we're going to bring back anything from the 70s, why are we bringing back inflation? Why not the Commodores? Inflation or disco? Inflation or muscle cars? Now, we'll talk with Paris Dennard about inflation and what he sees in the future of how do we break out of it? What do we need to do to see this the tide stemmed a little bit? Today is UL System Day out at the Capitol. President of the UL System, Dr. Jim Henderson, going to hop on board to talk with us. It's been a good minute since we've talked with Dr. Henderson about what he's got going on and what the UL System is up to. In our 7 o'clock hour, Andrew Fitzgerald from the Baton Rouge area chamber is going to hop on board. We're going to talk Baton Rouge by the numbers. This was something cool that I came across the other day that the chamber's up to. Let me grab this real quick. There it is. It's called BR by the numbers, and it's a Andrew and his team have launched a Substack account. They're putting together data analyses on a variety of new topics. They're just getting into it. They're just scratching the surface, but this has the potential for me to nerd out on a regular basis. And Andrew will join us at 7:15 to talk about it. 7:35, we will talk with Dr. Cade Brumley, the state's superintendent of education, about everything from social studies standards to the new Hurricane Commission, as hurricane season is fast approaching. In the 7 o'clock hour, we'll have State Representative Julie Emerson at 8:15 to talk about the now reconvened legislative session, what they'll be up to and when, what you can expect to hear about, what topics are going to be hot and when. And we were supposed to have Congressman Troy Carter in the 8 o'clock hour as well. If you saw the preview tweet, we were supposed to have Congressman Carter, but he had travel plans change, and he will physically be in the air during the segment where he was slated, or as he is slated every week. Plus top stories and trending, plus the outside in, plus this day in history, and a whole lot more coming your way throughout the show. So let's start off with that forecast, as it is expected to be nasty throughout the day today. If you were taking a look at this yesterday evening, it should just be a torrential downpour everywhere in Baton Rouge right now. As this is played out, like we've been seeing storms do over the past couple weeks, they push back. But not only is this storm pushing back, but the percentage chance of rain is diminishing as well throughout the day. Now, that being said, the duration looks like it's lengthening everywhere. Let me just start you off with this. We are looking at a tornado watch for a number of different parishes, every parish that's within our listening area: Ascension, Assumption, EBR, East Feliciana, Iberville, Jefferson, Lafourche, Livingston, Orleans, Plaquemines, Point Capee, St. Bernard, St. Charles, St. Helena, St. James, St. John the Baptist, St. Tammany, Tangipahoa, Terrebonne, Washington, West Baton Rouge, and West Feliciana. Those are all looking at a tornado watch right now. Flood watch, flash flood watch, is in effect for basically those same parishes. And they added a few Mississippi counties as well: Hancock, Harrison, and Jackson. The flash flood watch runs through this afternoon. The tornado watch is scheduled to end at 11 a.m. And there is a special weather statement from the National Weather Service as well. Here's a special weather statement. A strong thunderstorm will impact portions of central West Baton Rouge, southwestern St. Helena, southeastern West Feliciana, southeastern Point Capee, central East Feliciana, northwestern Iberville, and northern East Baton Rouge parishes through 6:30 a.m. At 5:41 a.m., so 30 minutes ago, Doppler radar was tracking a strong thunderstorm over Maringouin, or 13 miles east of Crotch Springs, moving northeast at 55 miles per hour. Look for hazardous winds to be in excess of 30 miles per hour and half an inch of hail as well. Gusty winds could knock down tree limbs, blah, blah, blah. You know the rest of the advisories when it comes to that. But that being said, if you're looking at the hour-by-hour forecast and comparing it to where the hour-by-hour forecast was, it's not nearly what we thought it was going to be whenever we went to bed last night. So we've got a 50-50 shot at rain throughout the day today. Basically every hour throughout the day today, 50-50 chance of rain. And that's going to bring us up to our first break. We'll go ahead and take that break. When we come back, a lot of sports to cover. College basketball came to a close last night. Wow, what an unbelievable delivery from the NCAA for the city of New Orleans. Could not have ordered it up any better. We'll talk a little bit about Kansas versus UNC. Saints made a big trade yesterday, and LSU baseball, weather permitting, will be back at it tonight. Quick break, coming back. Let's talk sports next. Yeah.
What do you think the Saints trade means? It means we're going for a wide receiver and an O-line.
Possibly. Mm-hmm. 617 Talk 1073 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. So, Final Four down in New Orleans, championship game last night. Boy, did it deliver. 72-69 your final score. Kansas is your national champion. I honestly was thinking that UNC was going to pull it out. I mean, they held the lead throughout a lot of the game. I just was in disbelief. I was like, there's no way this 8th seed with a first-year coach is going to pull this off. Well, eventually the cream rose to the top, and Kansas proved out to be able to outlast them, proved out to be the better team, or at least on that night, and walks home with the title. What a great overall weekend, though, for the city of New Orleans. You could not have ordered up more storied programs combined with good games. Yeah, Villanova versus Kansas was not the best game there was, but it was, in hindsight, looking back on it, it was setting the stage for what was to come last night. Being able to see one team establish like that. And then, of course, Duke, North Carolina was Duke, North Carolina, and it was fantastic. All in all, just a great Final Four for the city of New Orleans. And Kansas goes home your victor. That puts a button on the college basketball season. Moving over to college baseball, LSU will be back at it tonight, weather permitting, of course. That's going to be important to keep an eye on throughout the day today as we see those thunderstorms linger as Grambling is heading down to LSU to play. 6:30 p.m. is your first pitch tonight on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. Pre-game show is slated to begin at 6 o'clock. Chris Blair will be on the call. Saints shook up the NFL draft a little bit. They made a trade with the Philadelphia Eagles. It gives the Saints 2 picks in the first round and 4 in the top 100 selections overall. Locked On Saints podcast host Ross Jackson says whether this is the first or last move the team makes, it's a good deal for the black and gold.
They could be aggressive again come draft day, especially with those 2 picks within 4, so they could potentially look to move up as well in the first round to go and get the guy that they really, really want, or sit back and then walk away with 2 top 20 pieces of talent to add to their offense or defense in this year's draft.
And it's still too early to project who they might take.
Kenny Pickett continues to get mentioned with the New Orleans Saints. Other players that you could potentially look at would be Trevor Penning, the offensive tackle from the University of Northern Iowa, and then, of course, the slew of wide receivers that are going to be impact wide receivers that can be had in the first or second rounds.
Yeah, I've got my eye on Jamison Williams out of Alabama with that second pick. Here comes a Fox Business Report. My text went off. Hey, good morning, Christy. Welcome in, boo.
When you say that, is she tuning into the show, or did you just get a text that she's awake?
She's usually watching on YouTube while she gets ready. It's hit or miss, though, because she's got the whole circus to deal with at the house. 3 kids getting ready for school. No, this segment's just me getting myself in trouble. What's going on the YouTube? Hey, Eric, welcome in. Yeah, we're going to go with 4, 5, and 6 towards the end of the show. Just revisit it. Yeah, I need to freshen this one up. The Winn-Dixie on Burbank is now closed. Live After 5 is taking a week off. That's weird. I don't know. Well, they're out there this weekend, but not this Friday, but not next Friday. Strange. Ah, yes, it is. That would be why. Okay. .624 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Yes, we're keeping an eye on the weather throughout the morning this morning. Hopefully getting you to work or to school dry and without accidents on the roads. Taylor will have another report for us in 10 minutes from right now. Hey, Live After 5 is going to be back at it again this Friday. So far, so good with Live After 5. I mean, we saw Cowboy Mouth a couple weeks ago. The Lost Bayou Ramblers were last week. This week, the Rebirth Brass Band is going to be out there Friday. Then no Live After 5 next Friday. The following Friday, I'll be out there with Kenny Neal. I'll be handling some of the emceeing duties when Kenny Neal is out there. Now, Kenny Neal, if I'm not mistaken, is opening up the Baton Rouge Blues Festival weekend. So looking forward to that a good bit. Of course, I'll have Wayne Toops and the Chris LeBlanc and his big band to wrap things up with the lineup out there for Live After 5. It's a solid Live After 5 lineup in downtown Baton Rouge. You know where to find them up there on North Boulevard by Galvez Plaza. This week, by the way, Dow, Turner Industries, and Emergent Method are teaming up to sponsor this week's show with the Rebirth Brass Band. I believe our sister station 104.5 will be handling emceeing duties this week, so be on the lookout for Hunt Palmer from 104.5's Hunt and Hill to be introducing the Rebirth Brass Band this Friday for Live After 5. So, a couple of stories I want to touch on here. One of them garnered a lot of attention yesterday. The other one flew under everybody's radar on Friday. The one that flew under everybody's radar on Friday, I kind of mentioned yesterday a little bit, just kind of poking fun. And turns out the exact same level of fun that I was poking was exacerbated with the story from yesterday. Okay, here we go. From yesterday's angst, if you will. Opposition to a proposed new subdivision on the west bank of the Comeet River might result in hundreds of children, most of them African American, becoming ineligible to attend one of Louisiana's highest-rated public school districts. Senator Mac Bodie White of Central recently filed Senate Bill 189, which would redraw the boundaries of the Central School District to remove all the land on the west side of the Comeet. This 2-square-mile area includes the 53 acres of the proposed Bell Arbor subdivision, which would build 183 homes just south of Hooper Road near its intersection with Foster Road. Charles Lucier of The Advocate says White did not return multiple messages seeking comment about the bill. The legislation awaits action in the Senate Education Committee. If adopted, the boundary changes would take effect July 1st. The land and the school children who reside there would shift back to the East Baton Rouge Parish school system, which is not entirely true. Those who are already in central schools would have the option to stay in central schools. If I understand the bill the right way, and I may have read it wrong, but if I understand the bill the right way, those who move into the new subdivision would be in EBR schools. By the way, Central could lose as much as $300,000 a year in state education funding, depending on how many children change districts. When the article came out, all the exacerbation, all the huffing and puffing was based around creating the narrative that Bodie White is trying to keep black kids out of central schools. What's gotten missed in the narrative is, boy, there's a big hue and cry to keep kids out of East Baton Rouge schools. everybody who's talking about this, every message that I was sent, every tweet, retweet about it, is making it sound like going to EBR schools is going to be detrimental for these children. They have to stay in central schools. It cannot happen. You can't do that to these kids and send them to EBR schools. It's just not fair to them. I mean, don't tell the folks in St. George, right? Wanting to send kids to an independent school district, wanting to send kids somewhere outside of EBR. This on the heels of last week, or late last week, the article reading, Baton Rouge considers privatizing sewage plant operations in a bid to end the consent decree. So you're going to tell me from Friday and Monday, we got headlines about privatizing governmental entities and keeping kids out of EBR schools. I cannot imagine what is going on at the headquarters of what will one day be the St. George City Hall. They have got to be just beside themselves going, we've been telling you. They have just got to be beside themselves saying, how is that we have been painted as evil for all this time for the exact same narrative that's being spelled out in real time now? They've been wanting their own schools. They've been wanting to reduce the size of the overall government by privatizing a few things. Those two things played out. Both articles from The Advocate, by the way. All right, we got a break for news. We're going to take that break for news. When we come back, I want to talk inflation. I don't want to talk inflation. I have to talk inflation because we're seeing inflation. Paris Dennard is a national spokesperson for the RNC. He has sounded off on, basically President Biden needing to own the inflation that's out there. It's his. You can't pawn the economy off on the previous administration anymore. We will talk with Paris Dennard about not just the inflation that's there, but what it's going to take to change course a little bit. Right after we check news. Let's hit CBS before hitting our own local news, traffic, and weather on Talk 107.3. Oh. Galen says, how do we know the racial makeup of a soon-to-be developed subdivision? Boy, that's a good question. So, as far as Bodie having an explanation for his bill, he doesn't have to have an explanation for his bill. Legislation can be filed on just about anything, and anybody who's followed the state legislature for any period of time needs to know that Bodie always has a different end game in mind than what's being proposed. It's just that simple. And he proposed legislation for Bodie White is often just a bargaining chip. I refer you to the hubbub and kerfuffle over defunding Breck last year. Dude never wanted to defund Breck. He wanted a big park in Central that wasn't getting any attention. It was dilapidated. It was crapped out. Hey, you guys want to come over here and cut the grass? Okay, fine. I'm going to defund Breck. Whoa, Jack. That's how Bodie rolls. Paris has our number, so he should be calling the hotline. inflation. Hmm.
We are in the middle of our break right now. We're going to be live again in probably 1.5 to 2 minutes. We'll get you off that. Thank you. That's all.
Yep. Just drove through the storm in Bro Bridge. Heavy rain, not bad. All right, Dill. I appreciate that, Nyquilus. Nyquilus Dillward, Louisiana State University. Six 637 Talk 1073 FM WBRP. So we're seeing inflation at a pretty historical clip. Pretty historical. It's not overall record breaking yet. But is there an end in sight? Is there a way out of it? Joining us to talk about this right now is Paris Dennard. Paris is a national spokesperson for the RNC. Welcome back to the show. How are you, man?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
No, glad to have you on here. I always enjoy our conversations. Let's start off. You know what? I'm not going to miss out on the opportunity to have you sound off on Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. I know it's off topic. It's not what we were intending to talk about, but your thoughts on what's going to happen or how things are going to play out in the Senate with the confirmation of the soon-to-be justice.
Well, you said soon to be justice because as it stands right now, she seems to have the numbers just because the way the Senate is laid out to be confirmed, and because of the way people have already said publicly that they intend to vote for her or against her. It seems as if she has the votes, but you never know what can happen. I think that there could be public pressure from senators to call, that when people call in and express their disdain with her, that might sway them. You never know. I encourage people to do that because I think ultimately there are several issues that are problematic with Judge Brown Jackson. Number one, her leniency when it comes to child pornographers. It's a pattern and it's a problem. Mm-hmm. Her lack of judicial philosophy. It's a problem not to have one. Her inability to define what a woman is, which is sort of odd, but it shows you how she thinks and how she doesn't want to answer things, because to answer that question needs to go against what a lot of Democrats and progressives are pushing right now in terms of transgender agenda. And I think ultimately it's the way she views the Constitution and being seen as a more of a activist type of a judge who is more sympathetic and rules based upon her feelings rather than rules based upon the law and her interpretation of the law. Her past record is problematic in that regard. So I think Republicans ask tough questions, good questions. But my last point is simply this. For any Democrat to come up there in the media and act as if Judge Brown Jackson did not get a fair hearing or it was somehow racist or hostile because she was a woman is a bunch of malarkey. It's false. It's a lie. To just go back and look at how Democrats treated Clarence Thomas, Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, even Samuel Alito, and you will see the stark difference in the way Democrats treat Republican judges for Supreme Court versus the way Republicans treated and the type of questions we asked of their judges. It was a stark difference, and Judge Jackson got the type of confirmation hearing that Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and others should have received.
Yeah, Clarence Thomas's was a good minute ago. It was a different time in our country, to be sure. Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh are the two that really stand out to me as comparable to what Judge Brown Jackson has been going through as well, with the seemingly non sequitur questions that actually have meaning behind them. But I wanted to get your thoughts on it just because it is what's happening in the news right now. Also, what's happening in the news right now, inflation continues to be bad. Paris, how did we get where we are, and how do we get out of where we are?
Well, we got there because of Joe Biden and his bad policies, his bad economic policies, bad trade deals, not having the respect of world leaders, passing $2 trillion+ bills that flooded the marketplace, didn't do anything to help the economy. It actually hurt the economy because it made it too hot. I think that a lot of economists will go back and look and wonder with good cause if that was the smart decision. I think we look at the record 40-year high for inflation. I think they will say that it wasn't. The way that we get out of this inflation is for Joe Biden to reverse course and change his policies and do what a lot of Republican governors have done and do what President Trump is able to do in terms of creating an environment for us to have a more robust economy, and so that we have job creation in this country, wages that will go up in this country and not be impacted on a negative basis based upon food inflation and rising gas prices as well, because all of these things together make for a bad situation economically for the American people. Look, I don't care what type of job you have. If you make over $100,000, if you're an hourly employee, when you go to the gas station and you have today gas prices are $3.96 down there. Last year was $2.62. That is a big difference. Mm-hmm. And you have people trying to figure out whether or not they're going to pay for food or putting a full tank of gas in the car, prescription drugs, or they're going to be able to buy groceries. And this is impacting a lot of people, especially single parents, middle income, hardworking blue collar workers, as well as senior citizens on fixed income. And so Joe Biden needs to look at what's going on in this economy, take responsibility for it, stop blaming Putin, stop blaming the gas industry, the energy sector, and stop blaming the American people, and lead and change and make sure that we can sustain our lives, because if he stays on the same track, Americans won't be able to keep up.
Paris Dennard is our guest. He's a national spokesperson for the RNC. Paris, okay, so when you say it is because of Joe Biden, that might sound oversimplified. Can we get a little bit? You alluded to oil and gas a good bit within that answer. Is it as simple as that one sector? Because that one sector affects every aspect of our lives, from the gas that we have to pump to the gas that the food gets delivered by to basically all of energy within.
Well, when you look at the energy sector, we always sort of simplify it to just meaning gasoline.
Mm-hmm.
But oil, the things that come out of that we use in plastics, that we use in home heating oil, all the things that we use oil for, it impacts everything that we use. On top of the fact that we have a supply chain crisis that is in this country, and when you have trade deals that were not presented and pushed, when you have jobs that were killed because of Keystone Pipeline, when you have Russia that received the pipeline deal with the removal of the sanctions for them for the Nord Stream 2 versus the killing of the pipeline here, Keystone would have made us energy independent or continued on the way we were before. Then when you have an open border, and that open border allows for drugs, crime, and violence to come into this country, and as well as jobs in terms of the time and the energy and the resources go to keeping Americans safe from the open border. So all of these things together impact us on an economic standpoint. So yes, it is the inflation, but I think that we would be short-sighted just to look at it and say it's just inflation. It's not just inflation which is affecting the American people on an socioeconomic basis. It's the inflation, it's the gas prices, it's the violence that we see because of defunding of the police, it's the drugs that are coming over, and how that's impacting the rising the death. Leading cause of death for 18 to 45 is fentanyl, which we know is coming over the world. So all of these things together have an impact on the economy. And here's the last point. Mm-hmm. It's a very good point. The COVID-19 mask mandates and COVID mandates that were put in place for the vaccine passports that prevented people from working and made people have to stay home in order to take care of their children. All of these things played an impact on where we are today because some people weren't able to recover financially because of COVID, because of the being locked down, because of schools being closed and not being able to work. So all of these things together gets us to where we are today. So when I say it's Joe Biden's fault or his policy, that's what I mean by that.
And it's walking us up to the midterms coming up later on this year. In the meanwhile, we are just straight up out of time. Never enough time when we catch up with Paris Dennard. I appreciate it, though, man. Thanks for hopping on board this morning.
Thanks, Dan.
Always. We are due up for a break. It is going to lead us up to midterms, and that is going to force a change in one way or another. So brighter days are ahead when it comes to the economy for sure. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk UL system in front of the state capitol today. I hate when it gets oversimplified like that. It's Joe Biden's fault. It's not just that. It is that simple, and it's not that simple. Need a lot more room to run with him. Clinton says the talking point speaking is strong with this one. He could have been way less divisive if he let people figure out he was talking about Biden policies. I know. Paris is very on the nose. There's Dr. Henderson. Okay. Galen says it really is as simple as Democrat policies. Yes, but why? You have to explain why. You can't just say Republican good, Democrat bad, and call it a day. We could have gotten rid of this one. Shit. We're going to be over because we haven't gotten traffic yet. Go ahead and stop it before traffic. I'll be back in 1 second, y'all. Okay, Galen, you're starting to get there. Dem platforms, monetary policy, print and borrow, leading to inflation. Yes, but there's got to be a primer on how that happens, how A plus B equals C. You can't just walk around going C, C, C. It's got to be how. Energy policy, become dependent on foreign bad actors rather than allies and domestic. Yes, not to mention the fact that we do it cleaner here. I only have 200 characters. Yes, no, I'm not asking you to explain. I'm telling you the difference between when someone like Paris comes on and is given the opportunity to set the table, it's more inclusive to say, hey, we have an opportunity to capitalize with more jobs here in America. We have an opportunity to do it cleaner and greener than the rest of the world. We have an opportunity, and I'm just speaking about the oil and gas sector here, and we have an opportunity to reduce our dependence, and it's presented in how to do it right, laying out the blueprint to do it right, rather than just Biden bad. We saw 4 years worth of Trump evil. It didn't get. Did it get us anywhere? No. And this won't either. .653 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. So out at the state capitol today, the UL system will be the focus. Joining us now to give us kind of a state of the system address, if you will. Dr. Jim Henderson heads up the UL system. Been a minute. How you doing?
Well, it was great to be with you. I think it was April 1st of last year that was on the show and had a great time with a fun joke, and it just doesn't apply this time, so we got to get the schedule better next time.
No, you're right. It doesn't. I forgot all about that. And if I'm not mistaken, did you have a grandbaby on the way at that time?
Well, I had two that were born that day. I got on a flight right after the show and was there and holding them within 3 hours. So
that was
they
fantastic.
just turned one, and their older brother just turned two. So it's a full house in Miami down there.
That is awesome. Very cool stuff. So how are things within the system right now?
You know, we have gone through 2 years of some of the most severe disruption I think you could find in higher education, but things are really good. We're going to showcase some great academic programs today at the Capitol. Of course, we have some culinary delights. The Nichols State Chef John Fultz Culinary Institute is going to be cooking some jambalaya. UNO's Lester Kabakov School of Hotel and Restaurant and Tourism Administration is going to make dessert. They wouldn't tell me what that is. I have a feeling it's going to be quite good. And then we'll showcase programs like our drone programs, architecture programs, of course, our world-class cyber programs that we have at Louisiana Tech and Grambling State. We might mention that we now have an R1 research university at UL Lafayette, which now is the third R1 institution in Louisiana with Tulane and of course, LSU A&M. So we've had despite the disruption, we've had a couple of years of remarkable accomplishments. And we're going to showcase the faculty and the staff that are behind all of those accomplishments. 9
universities within the UL system, and one day in front of the state capitol. How do you pick and choose what you want to feature and what needs to be highlighted?
Yeah, there's never any trepidation there, right? We're going to get that right 100% of the time.
No, totally.
And no turf battles, no parochialism. Listen, we've got so much that we could showcase, and each one of these institutions could have their own day at the Capitol. And so we work closely with them. We talk at length about, okay, hey, what do we want to highlight from your university that really tells the story about your students, about your scholarship, your research. And they have no problem coming up with ideas. And so we want to give the legislature a taste of the breadth and the relevance of these programs because they really are driving the economy of Louisiana. $10.9 billion annual economic impact in these 9 institutions, over 149,000 jobs directly supported. That's a pretty compelling aggregated impact. But when you dig down and you look at how each one of these institutions is the lifeblood of the communities and the regions that they serve, it's a fun story to tell. And this year the legislature has been very, very responsive to this story. And we couldn't be more excited about the prospects of this session.
We've seen other universities or other institutions in front of the state capitol in past years basically poor-mouthing, saying we can't get anything done because we don't have enough funding. Your approach seems to be a little bit different. Your approach seems to be more of let's let success beget more success.
I've never subscribed to people giving to need. That works in certain circumstances. When it comes to higher education, people give and invest in excellence, and that's been our approach. We have to do the most we can with the resources that we have, and when we show a return on investment of that, that's when you can start the call for new investments. These last 6 years, we saw a stabilization in state funding of higher education. We've seen some remarkable private investments. I think 6 of our institutions in the last 2 years have announced their largest single private gift. That really is a testament to just how relevant their programming is and how they're viewed by their investors. And so, when we leverage the collective strength of these 9 distinct institutions towards the good of all, that's a powerful place for us to be.
Dr. Jim Henderson is our guest. He is the president of the UL system. So is there an end goal in mind? Is there particular legislation you're looking to draw folks' attention to out of the state capitol today, or is this just general, here's where we're at within the UL system, let's keep it up?
We want to show the legislature what we've done with their investments and show them what the potential is if we make smart, strategic investments in our work. The main goal for this legislative session is for us to close the competition gap for faculty salaries. We're way below our SREB peers in faculty salaries. Now, the state can't close that gap on its own. Let's make that an understood premise to start. However, the state does have some room to catch up with states like Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, even Texas, and think about the economies of scale they enjoy in Texas in per capita support of higher education. When we do that, that allows us then to be competitive and close that competition gap to recruit, retain, develop faculty, because they're the life and blood of our institutions. We've got to get that done. I think we've seen a lot of positive reception to that message, and we're going to carry that forward.
Got about a minute left with Dr. Jim Henderson. Talk about UL Systems Day at the Capitol today. This is not your first go-around with this. Is there a particular part of the day that's your favorite? Is it the demonstrations? Is it the showing off of the cooking? Is it the Northwestern State University saxophone choir?
It's going to be a fun day. It's a little bit different today. It's downscale because we weren't sure what the pandemic was going to do and what we were going to be able to do. I love the days when we have 1,500 students out on the front lawn of the Capitol, and you see all of those beautiful colors. And of course, I like the purple, but we also have some beautiful red and blues and greens, and even those McNeese blue and gold colors can get to me sometimes. But to see that camaraderie and the joie de vie, if you will, this is going to be a different process. It's going to be in the Pentagon Barracks. We're going to have some great performing arts. We're going to show some academic programs. I trust Cammie Geisman, who is chief of staff of our system, who's been the coordinator and architect of this. She told me it's going to be special. So when the legislature adjourned, I went to Miami, rocked some grandbabies, and came back late last night. And I trust that she's going to deliver. I have no doubt she will.
He is UL System President Dr. Jim Henderson. We always appreciate you having you on, man. It's been too long.
It's been great. I appreciate you very much.
Always. We'll have you back real soon. Dr. Jim Henderson, we are late for CBS News. Love having that guy on. That, like, you want to talk about, difference in approach right there? Touting what they're doing right at the UL system. The number of times F. King Alexander would go in front of the state legislature and just pour mouth. We can't do this because we don't have enough. We can't do that because we don't have enough. It wears you down. Galen says he really should explain himself better, and that would win more people to our side. 1,000%. You have the argument on you have the right side of the argument. So spell it out with detail and not just shouting talking points. Troy says the fear factor plays a huge role in the economy. Businesses fear of higher taxes, higher minimum wages, more regulations so they don't expand. Don't hire more, which reduces domestic product, and the spiral begins and continues. Yes. Yes. Breaking that spiral is difficult. I know I'm not going to get anybody to agree with me on why it's important for a Republican or two. Galen did, but I don't think a whole lot of people are going to agree. Do not put Ketanji Brown Jackson in the hands of Kamala Harris. There's no reason to give her something to run on. Byron says they don't seem to understand that you can't be too heavy-handed with industry on a global economy unless the whole developed world agrees to a universal tax and regulatory policy. That is unbelievably important in this equation. Every time we talk about global warming, we talk about American solutions. Unless, and not just a taxing policy, but a usage policy. Did you say usage policy? No, tax and regulatory policy. Everything from the way energy is utilized to the way it's harvested to whatever. I got to hop off of YouTube for a minute. Got to get on the weather app because I got to pull up the alerts. Yeah, I haven't done any of them yet. I'll do Muya here. .706 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Thanks again to Dr. Jim Henderson from the UL system, president of the UL system. It is their day at the Capitol today. 9 universities will be showcased. Good stuff. And I appreciate Paris Dennard hopping on board as well. Never have enough time with Paris to get into. Never have enough time with Dr. Henderson either. But to get into the nitty gritty about energy policy specifically and their effects on the overall economy. Coming up this hour, let's talk Baton Rouge by the numbers, BR by the numbers. Andrew Fitzgerald from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber going to join us in our next segment. Dr. Cade Brumley is going to join me at 7:35. We're going to talk a little education. He is the superintendent of education in the state of Louisiana and joins us once a month for an update. Going to get you to top stories and trending here in just a minute. Do need to ask if you got lunch plans yet. If not, Muya, burgers, fries, and shakes is your answer. You know where to find them. Bluebonnet at Highland. Segan, just north of Industrialplex. I tell you every day about the great ingredients. I tell you every day about the variety of burgers you can find there. I tell you every day about the great service. I need to tell you more often about the app. Download the Muya app, and you could be earning rewards towards free burgers. What's better than that, right? It's a very simple, straightforward, points-based system. Every dollar you spent kicks back towards rewards. And you see turnover on those rewards quite often. You'll get a free order of fries just for downloading the app in the first place. And then from there, every time you order Muya, every time you get something to eat at Muya, boom, it's done. You're earning towards free rewards. Segan, just north of Industrialplex, Bluebonnet at Highland. Swing by for lunch today. Muya, burgers, fries, and shakes. All right, time for top stories and trending. Let's hit it. A project announced by DOTD nearly a year ago is well underway, putting construction crews at many intersections in Baton Rouge. It's a 3-phase, $10 million project replacing 229 traffic signals with new ones that include those flashing yellow lights that we've been seeing pop up. New signals are believed to reduce crashes and keep traffic from building up unnecessarily, which will benefit drivers when the I-10 widening project begins. The intersection of Old Hammond at Terra Boulevard will have intermittent lane closures in all directions. This actually got underway yesterday. I drove through it yesterday and saw some of the blockages. Those closures will take place between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Monday through Friday until work is complete. Be on the lookout for more intersections to be impacted starting at 9 o'clock this morning. I-10 at College, Jefferson at Bluebonnet, Essen at Perkins, Nicholson at Skip Burtman Drive. It's going to be a minute before they get all 229 signals put in. In fact, looking at 2026 for completion date. The Department of Corrections blocked the release of a sex offender who was scheduled to get out of prison a matter of hours after the WBRZ's investigative unit began asking questions yesterday. Todd Michael Duquette molested at least 5 boys in East Baton Rouge Parish. He was convicted in 1994, sentenced to 30 years in prison. As he was getting sex offender rehabilitation, Duquette offended again, was caught with a 10-year-old in Texas. Duquette served 10 years in Texas for his crimes there, came back to Louisiana to serve his 30-year sentence in 2008. He was not supposed to be released until 2038, but because he was called a model prisoner, he received credits for good time, met the requirements for release this week. A letter obtained by our news partners over at WBRZ with their investigative unit showed Duquette will remain under state supervision until he's released in 2038. Department of Corrections put out a following statement that says Todd Duquette will not release from prison on April 6th of 2022 as originally scheduled. He met the legal requirements in Louisiana state law for release to good time parole supervision, including a residence plan. However, his residence plan has been withdrawn by the landlord. As such, he no longer has a residence plan, and without one, is ineligible for release. A teenager could be charged as an adult for his role in stealing a car that had an infant in the back seat. 17-year-old Bradley Jackson was booked Sunday as a principal to charges of auto theft and kidnapping. Jackson's appearance in juvenile court was waived Monday while prosecutors decide whether he'll be charged as an adult for that kidnapping charge. According to BRPD, the vehicle was stolen Sunday afternoon near the corner of Plank and Evangeline Street. Police said the child was taken out of the car at some point, was out of harm's way by the time officers pursued the stolen vehicle. Officers are investigating a body found along Glen Oaks Drive late Monday morning. According to Baton Rouge police, the body was found inside a vehicle on the 5100 block of Glen Oaks Drive around 11:25 a.m. No more information was made immediately available. Number of different watches and alerts throughout the morning this morning. We are under a tornado watch, the entire listening area under a tornado watch until at least 11 a.m. Our entire listening area under a flash flood watch until 6 p.m. this evening. And the National Weather Service has put out a special weather statement saying a strong thunderstorm will impact portions of central West Baton Rouge, southeastern Point Capiz, southwestern East Feliciana, northwestern Iberville, and northern East Baton Rouge parishes through at least 7:30 a.m. That weather statement is still out there, though. As the clock continues to roll on, we're still not seeing the weather hit in Baton Rouge just yet. So we are looking at holding on to the possibility that there could be some nasty weather as the morning wears on, probably in our next hour. Those are your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending. Both senators from Louisiana will be opposing Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Louisiana's U.S. senators said Monday they oppose confirming U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson as the first black woman to become a justice on the U.S. Supreme Court. The Senate Judiciary Committee, with U.S. Senator John Kennedy voting no, voted 11-11 on party lines after a parliamentary move on the Senate floor. Jackson will likely get a confirmation vote sometime this week. Senator Bill Cassidy's vote was one of the few being watched, despite his having voted in July against Jackson's ascension to the federal appellate court. In a statement, Cassidy called Jackson gracious and intelligent, but said she had the support of those who want, quote, an activist judge, and therefore not worthy of his support. Those are your top stories in trending. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, BR by the numbers. Andrew Fitzgerald joins us next. Oh, God. Oh. You're going to. A lot. That was awful. I hate jingles as a matter of principle. 716 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 2 mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. So, BR by the numbers. It is available. It's still young, but it's available. Joining us now to talk about it is the Senior Vice President of Business Intelligence for the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, Andrew Fitzgerald. Andrew, welcome back to the show. How are you, man?
Hey, good. How about yourself?
Doing very well. Let's start with the basics. What is BR by the numbers?
Yeah, so we basically, the business intelligence team, the research team at BRAC does work constantly monitoring all these various economic indicators internally. And finally, we said, maybe not everybody cares about them, but somebody cares about them. So let's have a blog just constantly once a week updating what are the new things we're seeing and all the economic data that we look at every week. So beeverthenumbers.substack.com is it's basically our research blog at the Chamber.
The research blog for the Chamber is tracking a number of things. Give us some examples of what those things are.
So one big thing that we tracked in the last week or two is housing stock. And we always talk about, I wish there were good jobs so we could keep our young talent here. Well, this is the time we have way more great jobs than we do people actually looking for work. So why aren't we retaining more talent? Part of that's housing stock. We in some parishes, we only have 15 days worth of housing stock before we run out of houses. The inflation pressures because of more money in the economy. There are a lot of reasons why there's so much demand for housing, but we kind of look at things like that.
So I'm looking at that one right now under Build Baby Build, talking about the Capital Region's housing stock. Where are we at? I mean, it's just do we have room for more?
That's the thing is we have a ton of room in terms of population density. We're way lower than not only major cities but places like Greenville, South Carolina. We have way lower density per people per mile than someplace like that has. But the thing is, the types of housing we're building, they're very expansive. It's single family homes. It's in suburban parishes, which is good, and there's definitely demand for that, and you can see that by people continuing to buy. But we also need kind of more dense housing in the urban core of Baton Rouge, or the type of people that are younger professionals that want an apartment or that want like a smaller home on a smaller lot. So it's really the variety of housing and where we're building it, and all that stuff affects pricing as well. And that's one way to fight inflation: make more of things.
that is true. We're at a time right now where interest rates are about to start rising, or they're already starting to rise again. And are going to be on their way back up. Have we missed a window to capitalize on more housing?
I think that interest rates will rise several basis points, throughout the year probably. But I think that because there's so much demand and wages are going up so much, we haven't quite missed the window. It won't be like the deal that you got in early 2021 for sure. But you will still have young people are still looking for housing. They still need someplace to live in. The housing market's rough here, but it's rough everywhere, really. So this is a chance to kind of swoop in, build more supply of housing, and then maybe kind of undercut some of our southeastern peers in terms of that.
We're talking with Andrew Fitzgerald. He's the Senior Vice President of Business Intelligence with the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. Andrew, before Build Baby Build, there was Hanging Out a Shingle. What was this one about?
Yeah, so that post was about how we may have more jobs than we thought in terms of a ton of people. We saw like a 60% increase in business applications in the pandemic year of 2020, which means that 60% more people tried to start their own business in 2020 more than they did in 2019. So it shows kind of the entrepreneurial spirit of folks in Baton Rouge. But also it means there's probably 1,700 people that started their own job rather than going back to work at a traditional place when they were displaced because of the pandemic. So kind of some silver linings to what was a really bad thing, in that you have people starting their own business. And that's the kind of thing that you like to see, rather than just sitting on the sidelines and waiting for the economy to right-size itself.
So this one was one that intrigued me because I was looking at the graph that's in the middle of it, and the spike is stark to go from 11,000 applications to over 17,000 and 17,500 in a year's time. Has the chamber been able to pull out the data that shows how much of that was side hustles, how much of that was temporary, how much of that was just people trying to get by in the midst of the pandemic, and then once rehiring started, they got back at it? I mean, are we able to tell what came of those 17,500 and change?
Yeah, we aren't yet. We're trying to kind of decipher the numbers, because what happens is that those jobs don't show up in the traditional, the Bureau of Labor Statistics every month comes out with job counts for every metro area. In these, self-employment doesn't show up in those numbers.
Right.
However, we can see things like real incomes, and real incomes are very, very high, even after the kind of government stimulus programs like the child tax credit ran out. So it really makes it seem like, yeah, these people actually did start their own business. Like, not all 6,500 maybe, but we see at least maybe 2,000 in those numbers so far. So everything we see right now indicates that people really have gone out and put out their own shingle. But it's going to take, this data lags by about a year sometimes. So everything around it looks good. We're still waiting on the actual hard numbers to come in a few months.
How is the chamber able to take these numbers and capitalize on them to make sure that Baton Rouge is getting the most out of what's out there?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that we try to do. Is this can't just live in a vacuum. This needs to inform the kind of work that we're doing. Mm-hmm. And what I'm saying, what I'll tell you right now is that talent attraction and retention are probably the most important things that the chamber works on at this point. Where if you ask any business out there, it's not tax rates and it's not incentives. It is, we need the workers to do the work. And you can automate some things, but you can't automate everything. So, really just kind of competing with large markets like Houston, Nashville, Atlanta, and even peer-sized markets like Greenville and Birmingham. Like, we need to look at these numbers and figure out how does that affect talent, because that is the number one thing businesses are looking for right now.
Where does BR by the numbers go from here? I mean, what goes into the selection process for what you're going to cover?
So basically, we're blessed in that we have so many good resources, both locally and nationally, that we're going to try to every week just post a new piece based on kind of the work we're doing. My research team is really a support function of the rest of the organization, where we help one team recruit companies. We help one team decide, what at the legislature or the Metro Council is good policies. And just kind of as we do those support functions, we kind of notice data like, oh, that's a little quirk. I didn't think about that. We can make a 500-word article out of that, every week or so. So really, it's just in the midst of our work, when we see something that's of interest to the public, we're going to try to make a few paragraphs and a few graphs that kind of illustrate to, the man on the street that this is something you should be paying attention to.
I guess what I was hinting at is what's next. What can you be on the lookout for?
So I think we might look more at, in particular, we talk about how we have a shortage of housing, but like what kind of housing would be even right to make? Is it giant multifamily in a more rural or suburban parish, or is it dense apartments in downtown Baton Rouge? Things like that. We have some policies about quality of place coming up in terms of litter. What are some good public policies we could pass in terms of affecting the litter situation, which, is kind of a drainage situation also in Baton Rouge? So we always want to kind of mirror the work that we're doing, but I think litter and the types of housing in particular are two things we might cover coming up.
Talk with Andrew Fitzgerald, the Senior Vice President of Business Intelligence from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. Okay, when you talk about public policy for litter and you talk about housing density, both of these things would affect flooding because they cross over with drainage as well. How does, going back to where we're at with the housing shortage, we're also seeing the Metro Council, needing to take a look at future developments, some of the surrounding areas, because the Chamber does cover a 9-parish area, some of the surrounding areas putting an all-out moratorium on construction as well. How do all these things factor into addressing a housing shortage?
I mean, they certainly make it more difficult. Think about one of the fastest growing parishes in the state has 100 open houses. 120,000 person plus parish has 100 open houses. That's 15 days of housing stock. And, you understand concerns because growth of number of houses outpaced the infrastructure. So it's ensuring that basically infrastructure, drainage keep up with that growth as well, and that takes commitment from local government. I think in East Baton Rouge Parish, our most dense, large parish, you got to focus on building up, like where there are areas of the parish that don't flood, and focus on those. I mean, downtown, it was crazy when I first moved here in 2016. I lived right along the river, and my parents called me, freaked out in August when the flood happened. I said, I'm 2 blocks away from the river, but I'm not flooding at all because I'm downtown. They have huge levees. And so it's kind of thinking about that. How do we build more dense? How do we build more up in a way that won't necessarily impact that flooding? And there's demand for that housing. You have 90% plus occupancy in most of the apartments downtown.
We got Andrew Fitzgerald from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. We're talking about BR by the numbers. So going to look at public policy for litter. I've got to ask the question about traffic. When is that going to be part of the agenda?
Traffic is always part of the agenda. Back from when I first moved here in 2015, we were talking about a gas tax that didn't quite make it through the legislature. Moved BR, which is future East Baton Rouge Parish, several years ago, and now the next thing is the Mississippi River Bridge. Basically, traffic is always going to be an issue. It's a huge quality of place issue. We spend more times in our car than people in around the same time as the people in Chicagoland area, which is absolutely crazy.
Yeah. So the Chamber, since at least the beginning of the pandemic, puts out a monthly economic indicator dashboard. How much of this is going to be cross-referenced with that? I mean, how much of this is just output is always as good as input, and y'all seem to be developing a lot of data going into things. So how much can we lean on the dashboard for more content from BR by the numbers?
Yeah, the dashboard's it's going to be a good spot to get some more depth than you would from like our monthly dashboard. I'll say that housing in particular, we just kind of try to rotate one slide at the end of every month. Like, let's find out some quirky thing and publish that. And the housing thing really stuck out to me where, a 2-bedroom apartment is 15% more than it was a year ago. That's $150 a month basically for a real person, for a college student or a new graduate living in a 2-bedroom apartment. And I thought, man, that merits a little bit more ink than just one slide, one throwaway slide. So you're going to see some overlap, especially when there's an interesting data point that needs a little bit more explanation or attention.
Absolutely, and with that added attention are things that we can capitalize on as a community. He is Andrew Fitzgerald, SVP of Business Intelligence for the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. It's called BR by the numbers. I got to read the last 2 entries. I got to go back and see what's before that. But, man, it has been intriguing stuff thus far. I appreciate you hopping on board to talk about it.
Hey, thanks for giving me the chance. Appreciate having me on.
Always. All right. We got CBS News coming your way in just a little bit. On the back end of CBS News, we're going to shift gears and talk education. Dr. Cade Brumley, the state superintendent of education, is going to join us. Social studies standards. There's no way we don't talk about this upcoming hurricane commission as well. I was baffled the last time we had the superintendent on. He was looking to put together a commission to basically work out a game plan, work out a playbook for when storms hit. I had no idea the state didn't have one. It seems befuddling that we would be in 2022 and not have one. So we're gonna talk with Dr. Cade Brumley in our next segment about exactly that. Hey, before we get you to break, though, got to remind you about the folks at Mathern's Market. They've got 2 locations, downtown on 3rd Street, Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. The Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center is directly across the street from Tiger Stadium. If you have not yet done so, please download the Mathern's app. Super convenient. You can get your grocery shopping done without even getting out of your car. I mean, think about that. If you work downtown or if you commute up Nicholson, like going out towards River Bend, if you live anywhere near the Winn-Dixie that just shut down, this is your easy answer to keep your level of convenience when it comes to your groceries. Download the Mathern's app. You can do your grocery shopping before you leave work. You pull in the parking lot. They bring it out to you. Boom. You just saved at least an hour out of your week. Full-service grocery stores at both locations. Yes, Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center is on campus. It's not just for students. It is right across the street from Tiger Stadium, and it is remarkably convenient, as is the downtown location on 3rd Street. Not to mention, great lunch at either location. Not to mention, great craft beer selection at either location. Thirds, downtown on 3rd, Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll check CBS News. We'll check our local news, traffic, get an eye on those thunderstorms that are rolling through with our weather. Then we continue next on Talk 107.3. Kiev. Superintendent of Education, Dr. Cade Brumley, is going to talk about social studies standards in the Hurricane Commission. No, she'll be on the phone. Wait, say again? Oh, yeah. .738. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Yes, we are keeping an eye on those storms. Yes, we are starting to hear some thunder downtown. Not a whole lot of rain just yet, but this will be affecting us throughout the morning, and we will be keeping an eye on it throughout the morning as well. Right now, though, keeping our focus on education. Dr. Cade Brumley is the State Superintendent of Education. He joins us every month for an update, and he does that right now. Dr. Brumley, good morning. How are you, sir?
Hey, doing well. Thanks for having me today.
No, glad to have you on. Glad to be chatting a little bit about what's going on in our schools. I want to get the social studies standards. We're going to get the social studies standards for sure. But I've got to start with the Hurricane Commission because there is, whether we like it or not, a ticking clock on the next season and potentially the next storm. So this is something that you told me about, I guess, a month or two ago when I was baffled to hear that we didn't have, not just blueprints, but a full-on playbook in effect.
Yeah, so what happened? I'm about 2 years into the job right now, and roughly 6 months into the job, Hurricane Laura hit in southwest Louisiana, and just kind of huddled up with everyone and said, okay, let's see the hurricane playbook, and was shocked to learn that it didn't exist. And so I said at that point, well, we have to do something about that, and we were incredibly busy with Laura, and then of course Delta hit right after that, same path, and then we were in a global pandemic, and then Ida hit and took out 300,000 kids from school for a period of time, and so we just said we've got to get this done, and so the idea is to pull together experts from schools, from school systems, from other sectors of the community, and say how can we do a better job of helping our school systems be prepared for these storms. So we launched the Hurricane Commission, and they're looking at things that schools and systems should be doing out of season to prepare, things that should happen in the lead up to the storm, the immediate lead up to the storm, and then the aftermath, with the idea that we would secure our infrastructure and safely return kids to school as quickly as possible. And our goal is that we would be able to have this report, this playbook out for schools across the state somewhere around the beginning of hurricane season.
Are we on track for that goal?
Yeah, so we've had two meetings so far. So the first meeting of the commission focused on areas for which they should be engaged in the off season. So what are some contracts that should be in place during the off season? What are other decisions that should be made in the off season of the storm? Then our next session we focused on, okay, that the storm is in the Gulf. What are we doing in that week that's the lead up to the storm? And so we are trying to codify that information, because if you think about Katrina being over 15 years ago, many of the school systems leaders and school principals, they're no longer in those jobs. Many of those people have retired, and so that institutional knowledge of how to deal with insurance, how to deal with FEMA, how to deal with working with utility companies, that all left when they walked out the door. So we want to codify that for existing and new leaders.
Dr. Cade Brumley is our guest, talking a little bit about the Hurricane Commission. Dr. Brumley, the first essentially 2.5 months of hurricane season are during summertime, so schools wouldn't play they're not in session at the time. How much of what the commission is looking at doing is making sure things are set for the return to school for the 22 to 23 school year?
Yeah, it's really important, because we know that we essentially had multiple beginnings of school over the last couple of years. So if you take southwest Louisiana, we had this great opening to schools in 2021, even 2020, even in the midst of the pandemic, and then a month later, Laura hits, and then a month later, Delta hit. So we essentially had 2 different openings or 3 different openings in some of those school systems to the school year. Same thing happened this year with Hurricane Ida. So we're not going to stop storms. This is not about climate change or anything like that. That's just the fact that if storms come, we want to put our schools in the best position possible to return their kids safely as quickly as they possibly can to face-to-face instruction.
Is there an end date on the commission, or is this something that's going to be kind of rolling and evolving as time wears on?
Well, we can look at that, but right now there is an end date. The end date is with the finality of the report that they will produce, because our goal is prior to the beginning of this hurricane season, we would have a report that may be in draft form, that may be in final form in the hands of school systems across the state, particularly along the coast. And one of the things I've heard in talking with leaders in other states is, hey, you guys get that right, because we don't have it either. And so they are potentially looking to us as a model of helping school systems think about how they can be prepared for these storms.
We've got Dr. Cade Brumley, the State Superintendent of Education, and we are talking a little bit about education this morning. Moving from the Hurricane Commission onto a few of the things in the classroom. We chatted briefly last time I had you on about social studies standards. Where are we right now in Louisiana schools?
Oh my God! We after a year and a half of work, our state board of education unanimously passed a set of social studies standards that we put before them last month, and they are, I believe, among the best, if not the best in the country. They organize history in a coherent sequence. They're rigorous and specific. They emphasize the founding principles of America and why this is a country worthy of your love. They do not contain CRT. And this is all really important because if you look across all content standards, only about a quarter of the kids in Louisiana right now are proficient, are mastering social studies content, which is content in history, and civics, and economics, and geography. And all of that begins with the standards, the things that we are expecting our kids to know and be able to do. And so now that we have a really good set of standards in place, we can spend a year trying to help people prepare for implementation a year out. And we are really excited about, seeing these come to life in the classroom. And we really think it's a win for Louisiana, especially in a culture war that we have seen play itself out over the country. And we were able over a year and a half to get this done in a bipartisan way. Is every single person happy? Maybe not, but we had a unanimous vote on the set of social studies standards, which are of high quality, which is a win for our kids. It's a win for the state.
CRT continues to be, if not a bad word, at least a controversial acronym. How do you walk through our state and our nation's history, addressing the good and the bad while not going down the path that is leading so many people to be up in arms about CRT?
Well, it was a challenge because we are in the middle of a culture war. Mm-hmm. But our position was we want to tell the whole story of America's history. And my belief has been the American spirit has always been one that's been on a quest for freedom, whether it was individuals signing the Declaration of Independence, whether it was, the abolishment of slavery, whether it was the suffrage movement, civil rights movement. So when there have been times in our country's history where we haven't been on the right path, we have self-corrected. And we wanted to put out all of the information, not shy away from things that are tough and difficult, but tell the whole story. But at the end of the day, I'm hopeful that as our kids go through a K-12 experience, that they will understand why this country is worthy of loving, why it is the greatest country on the face of the earth, and why they have a responsibility to not only sustain the republic but to improve it.
We get Dr. Cade Brumley for a few more minutes, and I want to make sure I reserve at least 60 seconds to sound off on an update on the Fast Forward program. But I've got to ask about some headlines from other states, and how often do headlines from other states impact what we're doing here? I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm just going to ask. Florida's Don't Say Gay bill. How does that have an effect in Louisiana, if at all?
Well, we are tracking the legislative process here in our state. The Department of Education doesn't take positions on bills. We monitor bills. We certainly appreciate bills that are around our priority areas, whether it's early childhood education or a school that fits for every family. Our state board of education takes positions on bills, and we relay those positions. But we are not a group that takes positions on bills.
Oh, not taking a position on a bill, and we're not going to dive in. We're not going to have time to dive into what bills are in front of the legislature right now. We'll wait till next month when we're a little bit closer to those coming to fruition. But while not taking positions on bills, you're going to be receiving phone calls, scared parents, what actually is in Florida versus what's being reported out of Florida. All these things. How do you handle that volume of reaction from parents?
Well, I think what's important here is just the importance of being truthful and honest with parents and having schools and school systems very open to parents. I think what happened over the course of the pandemic is many kids, of course, were home and home learning. Parents saw content that their child was bringing home or was being asked to study across the country, and in some places that was alarming to those parents. It felt like a pull back the curtain experience for them, and so that prompted those parents, maybe rightfully so, but certainly rightfully in the level of wanting to be engaged and the need to be engaged, to go to their principal's offices, to go to their school board meetings, to go to their state legislatures. And I think that's what we're seeing. Look, we have seen across the country a wave of parents who are saying, we have expectations of our public school system. We have expectations around the things that are being taught in classrooms, and we don't want our kids to be indoctrinated in some particular type of way. And so, I wrote an op-ed probably 6 months ago now, just urging parents to be involved at that classroom level. At the State Department of Education, we can put out standards, we can put out resources and guidelines, but ultimately, at the end of the day, teachers are going to be in classrooms with kids, and that's why parents need to be engaged with their local teachers in their local schools. But we have wonderful teachers throughout the state of Louisiana. But at the same time, we should always be hopeful that all of our parents would be engaged in what's happening in those classrooms, and frankly, it's beneficial when they are.
And that's the bigger discussion. I mean, you could have examples like Florida, you can have examples like CRT, but these are all anecdotal. The bigger discussion is the parent's role in the child's education, and we're seeing it being shouted down in other places. That's not the case here in Louisiana.
Well, that's crazy to shout down parent voice. I mean, if you talk with any responsible school person, they're going to tell you one of the most important factors to a child being successful is a parent or guardian, some loved one in their life that cares about them. And so we should be finding ways to open the doors, not slam them. And so what you've seen again across the country, and we have seen it. We've seen it in newspapers. We've seen it on TV. We have seen those parents say, "Look, I'm not satisfied with some of the stuff that I've seen while my kid was on homeschool, and I want to do something about it." And so that's what we've seen across the country. I think that in our state, not just within our office or in local systems or at the state legislature, but I think everyone has been pretty open to the fact that parents want to be engaged. That's what we want, and we've also been really open about the fact that we don't want any form of indoctrination to take place in classrooms. And so the way that you put a check on that is you have high quality standards for content. But also you have to have parent engagement on the other end to as a form of check and balance.
Quick update on Fast Forward before we get you out of here.
Yep. Look, Brian, I just continue to do everything I can to talk about career and technical education, to talk about the vocational crafts, anything that I can do to elevate those professions. For too long, they've been diminished. What we've tried to do is knock down barriers in high schools so that school systems can plan within their local communities with workplace partners and think about how can we get kids full apprenticeships while they're in high school. How can we get them, maybe if they intend to go to college, how can we get them a coherent set of courses before they go to college? So we're trying to rethink the whole high school experience for our students. We see this happening now across the state. if you have a problem in your home, whether it's electrical, plumbing, or a problem with your car, or if there are other technical issues that need to be solved, we all know that that's going to be an expensive proposition, and those individuals doing that are going to make a nice living by doing that. And so we need to prepare our students for what the economy needs, because that's not only good for the kid, but it's also good for our state.
He is Dr. Cade Brumley. We always appreciate the time, sir. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon. Quick break. Coming back with the outside in next. I ran long there. The superintendent of education does not have the respect of teachers and has no clue nor interest in understanding student violence and absurd levels of paperwork teachers deal with daily. To say he doesn't have the respect of teachers, I think, is a little bit too blanket. The reason I have him on is because a number of teachers have asked me to have him on. Understanding student violence. That is something I'm going to bring up the next time we have him on, for sure. We haven't. I don't know how much of that would kick up to the state level, but that's a darn good topic to bring up. And the paperwork problem, being the son of a teacher, the paperwork problem is a union problem, not a superintendent's problem. The paperwork problem is finding a way to, instead of teaching, you're creating benchmarks and check marks on a piece of paper to make sure that the job is being done. You're not being results-based. Your results are based off the paper. I've dealt with that my entire life, having to see that in the home, in our home. The violence one's got me intrigued, though. Good Lord. .755 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Ran a little bit long with the superintendent of education right there, but I always appreciate his time. It's such a valuable resource when it comes to what's going on in our schools around the state. Hearing the thunder roll into Baton Rouge a good bit. We are expecting thunderstorms throughout the morning. Taylor's got your traffic updates throughout. Marissa will have your forecast coming up in just a little bit. Although I'm sure I'll be updating that forecast throughout the next hour, as it's looking like the 8 o'clock hour is probably going to be the most significant when it comes to rain within Baton Rouge itself. Tornado watch in effect until 11, flash flood watch until effect, or is in effect until probably much later on this afternoon. The 8 o'clock hour, 9 o'clock hour, we're looking at thunderstorms, and it honestly is looking like it might be done by about 11 o'clock. But if you're still on the roads, please be a little bit careful. If you're not yet on the roads, budget yourself a little extra time. All right, every day we step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish for a segment we call The Outside In. Let's go ahead and do that now. Starting off in Iberville Parish, a small bridge in Bayou Sorrel has been repaired after days of repeated closure where it was hit by a barge. The bridge is still going to be closed overnight. It was overnight last night for the Coast Guard to clear barges from the channel. This is according to the parish council. The bridge in Bayou Sorrel, though, should be reopened during the daytime hours. Electronic devices being spotted around Livingston Parish were installed and operated by the sheriff's office. Quote, "We have a few devices in the parish. This is just a tool we have to respond to different areas," Sheriff Jason Ard said. Our news partners over at WBRZ reporting, the sheriff says cameras are used to monitor traffic problems and criminal activity. Quote, "It's just that our parish is growing so fast. This is just another way we can be in more places than just having units out there." By the way, the sheriff also says cameras will be moved from time to time whenever new trouble spots are identified. Over to West Baton Rouge Parish. A recent multi-agency investigation led to the arrest of 3 people and the seizure of large amounts of firearms and drugs. This all started when a man named Larry Barker called in a burglary. Grabbing this one from BR Proud, the ensuing investigation led to the arrest of Barker and 2 others. Melissa Barker, Larry Barker, and Joshua Vasquez were all arrested, booked into the West Baton Rouge Parish Jail. The investigation led to the discovery of a slew of firearms, drugs, and drug paraphernalia. Closing out in St. James Parish, a 2-year-old suffered gunshot wounds to both legs in Gramercy, according to the Gramercy Police Department. At around 8:56 p.m., officers arrived on the scene, found 2 victims that had been shot near North Mobile Lane. One victim, 23-year-old male, the other, a 2-year-old girl. The male victim told police he was getting into his vehicle on Mobile Lane. An unknown suspect began firing at the vehicle. He said his girlfriend and 3 children were already in the car. Both victims were taken to the hospital. The man's been released. The toddler is still at the hospital, but is in stable condition. That's the Outside In. Here comes CBS News on Talk 107.3. Yeah, I'm looking at that. Why? just state representative. Hmm? Yeah. .806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. We've got State Representative Julie Emerson joining us this hour. We've got a number of different news stories to cover. We're going to dive into the weather pretty heavy this hour, as it looks like this hour and next hour is where it's going to be its worst in Baton Rouge. That's all coming your way throughout. You heard the forecast from Marissa Nuzzo right there. We are under a tornado watch until 11 a.m. We are under a flash flood watch much, much later than that. I want to say, is it 4 p.m.? Is when the flash flood watch is set to expire. Let's see. No, I'm sorry, 6 p.m. Flash flood watch until 6 p.m. But the next couple of hours are going to be the worst when it comes to the rain. We're hearing the thunder loud and clear right here in the studios downtown. I'm sure you're experiencing it as well wherever you're at right now out in traffic. Going to get you to this day in history in just a moment. Do need to remind you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center, though. They've got 2 locations, Plank Road and Zachary. Perkins just east of Bluebonnet in Baton Rouge. The Complete Collision Center, Doug and his team over there, they pride themselves on making sure that they never let their continuing education, their training, fall to the wayside. They have the ICAR Gold Class certification, which puts them in the top 15% of body shops nationwide. ICAR Gold Class certification goes to great lengths to make sure they know the latest techniques for repair, how to find hidden damage, the difference between repair and replace, and oh my word, is that all the difference? And so much more. You want to learn more? Check out CompleteCollision.com, CompleteCollision.com. 768-9898 is the phone number, 768-9898. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. All right, every day at this time, Jake takes us back in time. It's time for This Day in History.
Yes, sir. It is time for this day in history. We're going to be kicking things off in... Sorry, just one moment. There we go. 1768. It was the first U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It just formed in New York City.
Cool.
In 1792, George Washington cast his first presidential veto.
What did he veto?
Not sure.
All right.
1803, the first performance of Ludwig van Beethoven's Second Symphony in D, conducted by the composer in Vienna. Going all the way to 1925, Yankees whip Dodgers in exhibition 16-9, but Babe Ruth collapses in NC due to an ulcer. In 1934, just about 9 years later, baseball superstar Babe Ruth agrees to do three 15-minute broadcasts a week over NBC for a fee of $39,000 for 13 weeks. That is $4,000 more than his New York Yankees playing contract. Broadcasting's got money, I guess. 1943, Chinese steward Poon Lim is found off the coast of Brazil by a Brazilian fisherman family after being adrift for 130 days.
It's about apportionment.
Huh?
George Washington's first veto was about apportionment. I'm reading a statement. He says, I have maturely considered the act passed by the two houses, entitled An Act for an Apportionment of Representatives Among Several States according to the first enumeration. And I return it to your house, wherein it originated, with the following objections. First, the Constitution has prescribed that representatives shall be apportioned among several states according to their respective numbers, and there is no one proportion or divisor which, applied to the respective numbers of the states, will yield the number and allotment of representatives proposed by this bill. Oh, this is fascinating. You go ahead. That's what it was about. Basically, he was going through, it wasn't redistricting, it was districting.
Well, I'm going to repeat myself here. 1943, Chinese steward Poon Lim is found off the coast of Brazil by a Brazilian fisherman family after being adrift for 133 days after the British ship SS Ben Lomond was torpedoed by a German U-boat. That's so bizarre. 1972, two things happened. In the regular MLB season fails to open due to a player strike for the first time in history. 86 games are lost before the labor dispute is settled. The same day in the same year, Mets trade Ken Singleton to Expos for Rusty Staub.
Yep.
1984, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
There's a couple other guys involved in that trade. Nobody really amounted to anything except for Rusty Staub.
Yeah.
It was a good deal by the Mets.
For sure. 1984, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar breaks Wilt Chamberlain's all-time career scoring record of 31,419 points. He got 31,421 points. In 1990, John Stockton reaches 1,000 assist mark for an NBA record 3 years in a row. In 1997, Steve Irwin's The Crocodile Hunter debuts. Shout out to Steve Irwin. Shout out to the Irwin family.
Hey, speaking of debuts, 1987 was, did you say this?
No.
Okay, Fox. The TV network Fox debuted on this day in 1987. First two shows were Tracy Ullman's show, which brought us The Simpsons eventually.
Huh.
The Simpsons were like a spin-off, like a short.
Wait, so Fox has only been around since 87?
Yeah. Yeah, and the other one was Married with Children.
Man, I always just assumed it was around for decades and decades past that. That's wild. Well, we're going to fast forward to 2017. That Pepsi ad, yep. Pepsi ad featuring Kendall Jenner was pulled after criticized for trivializing demonstrations. Yeah, that was a calamity of an advertisement for sure. That's all the events. Let's get to the birthdays. First up, Lily James turns 33. Juicy J turns 47. Haley Atwell, also Peggy Carter in Captain America, she turns 40. Sterling K. Brown turns 46. And
where do I know him from?
Sterling K. Brown?
Yeah, he looked very familiar. I know he's an actor. What did he do?
Hold on, I need to see his face. Wait, no, he's in Black Panther. Wait, no, he's not.
I never saw Black Panther.
You didn't?
No.
It's a good movie. I liked it.
I don't go to the movies, so
That's fair. Hold on, he's
Sterling K. Brown. Was he in The Marvelous Miss Maisel? Because I feel like he was in The Marvelous Miss Maisel.
Let me look real quick. Apparently he was in Frozen. He was in The Predator. Yes, he was in Black Panther. Yeah, he played his uncle at the time. Yeah, that's where I know him from. Moving things along, Steven Jackson turns 44.
Okay.
You got any birthdays for me?
Did you have Pharrell Williams?
I did not.
Pharrell Williams turns 49 today.
Happy birthday to him.
And Patterson, Louisiana's own Ike Hilliard.
Very nice. Happy birthday to all
born
those
on this day in 1976.
I had one death to talk about, and it was Kurt Cobain. He tragically passed on this day in 1994.
Billionaire recluse Howard Hughes passed on this day in 1976.
Recluse. Like that word. Holidays. It's National Caramel Day. You say caramel or caramel?
Caramel.
Thank you. We can agree on that at least. It's National Deep Dish Pizza Day. Shout out Chicago. Was that a Chicago thing? Yeah,
it is a Chicago thing, and there's no reason to shout out Chicago, like ever.
And finally, it is National Flash Drive Day. That is this day in history.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get you caught up on the state legislature. Julie Emerson joins us next. Oh, you need Julie's number. My email keeps shutting down. Why can't I download these? .817 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Time to get caught up on the legislative session. Time to welcome in State Representative Julie Emerson. Julie, welcome back to the show. How are you this morning?
I'm good, Brian. Thanks for having me.
I love having you on. I always appreciate the insight and the perspective. I've got to start with this. We're going to get into some of the bills that are garnering more attention than others out at this legislative session, but I've got to start with this. I would call on basically a different legislator or a person involved in the legislative session every day, and there is always just a laundry list of legislation that they're proposing. I opened up your page for proposed bills, and it is all of 5 deep. As an aside, first of all, thank you for not cluttering up the process. But secondly, why so slim?
I've always kind of, obviously every single time you look at a legislator, it'll be a different amount of bills, but I kind of always follow the philosophy of less is more. And I'll never forget, I always love telling this story, but I think maybe my first or second year in the legislature, I went to an event and a lady came up to me and she started talking about her House member. And I said, oh, yeah, he's a good guy. I like him, And she said, I looked up his page on the legislative website, and I just saw that he didn't have any bills this session. And does he even do anything over there? And I kind of laughed about it at first, but the more I've been here, the more I've realized that, as we get closer to session, legislators always feel this great need to go author a bunch of bills just for the sake of authoring bills. And obviously not everybody does that. Some do really great bills, but I've never really felt compelled that I need to create more laws all the time. So I try to keep it to ones that I really feel are important and good.
My dad used to have a saying: if you want them to stop making new laws, stop calling them lawmakers. Which I think kind of plays
not
here.
Wrong.
No, okay. So of what you've got proposed, what is garnering some attention off your slate? It looks like you've got a lot that's going to be up in front of a lot that's going to be up tomorrow, actually.
Yeah, well, actually, I have a few on the House floor today that have gone through committee, but I do a lot of bills that go through the Commerce Committee. I deal with a lot of licensing reform, kind of cutting some of the red tape, cutting barriers to entry. So I've done some bills in the past that have garnered much more attention on that issue, and I always call them the lobbyist employment bills, because every time I walk into the committee room, it's just filled with lobbyists because they've all been hired to kill my bill. So I kind of always laugh about that. But I've got a couple. I've got one that deals with the profession of massage therapy, and so when people get out of massage therapy school, they're applying to get their full license. They're taking the test, and there's a kind of a time period in the middle where they've been working as massage therapists in the school to get the training, and then there's this kind of gap where they don't have their license, and so this just creates a provisional license that allows them to keep working and keep making money as they're waiting for their full license to come through. It went through the Commerce Committee pretty easily, nothing super crazy and controversial. And then I have another one that's dealing with the Occupational Licensing Review Commission, and I'm just adding a little bit more oversight to that. I just think for a long time, some professional licenses are great. They certainly, when you're talking about doctors and things like that, it promotes public safety. But I think a lot of times people don't realize, and they don't kind of get down to the nitty gritty of it. Of this is the government giving someone a license. This is the government saying you have to fulfill these certain requirements to do your job. So when we start doing that, I think it's a little bit bigger deal, than some people want to make it. I mean, we have to really make sure that it's putting public safety, first as far as that goes. And I've just always thought that it was important to get people to work and not create a bunch of barriers to entry into their field.
Okay, I'm glad you brought this bill up, because this was the first one that piqued my interest. This one and the learning pods as well, but this one in particular. This looks like so it would add people to the board. What is the likelihood that it subtracts the number of industries that would need a license?
Yeah, so it's a good question. And actually, another member, it's funny because we both ended up filing very similar bills and had no idea that the other one was really looking into it. But this particular commission was created, I believe it was 3 or 4 years ago, maybe the 2018 session. Pat Connick had a bill that was trying to make sure that, I think there was a couple of different licensing boards that had kind of run amok of some federal antitrust laws. And so that commission was created in order to make sure that the licensing requirements were not violating antitrust laws. And so when it was originally created, they put a bunch of executive branch people on it. which was fine. You know, they were just kind of reviewing it and things like that. But I think that the commission can do more. Like I said, my bill is just adding some legislative members to it. I thought it was good to have some representation from the legislative branch of government on there, because we're the ones who deal with these bills all the time coming through. But Amy Freeman's bill actually puts a little bit more teeth into the commission and starts talking about, you know, some sunrise and sunset provisions as far as licenses go. And so I'm a big fan of her bill as well. A bill I did a few years ago actually did create a way to basically say that, hey, all licenses are going to have a sunset provision on them. And doesn't mean we're going to take them away. It just means that the board has to come back and start talking about why we have this particular license. So, you know, there's been a lot of emphasis on it in the last few years, and I'm hoping that we're kind of slowly chipping away at having better oversight.
Oh, no, 100%, because it's a conversation that needs to be had. Florists always come up. I'm waiting for the day that you have to be a licensed...
I had that bill, too.
I'm waiting for the day you have to be a licensed TikTok influencer, because that's just how we roll here. All right, let's talk charter schools, because that's another one of yours. This bill, as I read the digest of it, is this your bill for charter schools? Is it looking to grow charter schools in Louisiana?
No. So this context of this bill, last year I had a bill that allowed the creation of learning pods. I actually worked with Superintendent Brumley on this. This was kind of a baby of his that he wanted to see created in Louisiana. So we did that, and we set up very loose parameters. It was a new thing that we were doing, so we just kind of set up like very loose guidelines for the state in order to create these learning pods. And the learning pods are, because I know a lot of people probably listening saying, "What in the world are you talking about?" But it's basically just kind of the establishment of micro schools that are within a school. So we're not trying to go and grab the micro schools that are already created, like, you know, like a homeschool situation. We're not touching those at all. But these are just allowing existing schools to create kind of a micro school, whether that be in a more rural location, so students don't have to travel as far, or if it's just a specific type of group of kids who, you know, I know like in Lafayette, we have the medical academy in one of our schools. And so, you know, if there's an area of focus, then they can do that. This particular bill, it was just kind of a little bit of a cleanup bill. So basically, we were just allowing specifically for charter schools, because I think they ran into a couple of issues with this of they don't have the pod does not have to be on the same site as the specific charter school. And one of the biggest reasons for this that we have found the need for it is just because of hurricanes. So charters, when they're approved for a certain location. And this bill will just allow them, like I said, specifically when you do have a natural disaster, they can't necessarily pop up a learning pod in the same location because it may not be there anymore. It may be destroyed. So that's all it's doing. Like I said, just kind of in the last year since we've had this, you know, just kind of noticed a few problems here and there, and just trying to make an allowance for that.
Okay, I see. That is completely off from where I didn't realize this more about, like, basically satellite locations.
Yeah.
What else is going on in the legislature that has your eye? Not necessarily your legislation, but what is garnering the most attention right now within the Capitol?
Well, you know, obviously we had a very interesting week last week. We did something for the first time since I was 3 years old in the legislature. We overrode Governor's veto. So that was a particularly interesting time. And then I think, I actually think it'll be interesting to see if that becomes more of something that the legislature possibly does in the future. I know that, you know, obviously we'll have the Fairness to Women's Sports Act come back up. That's going to be interesting to see if, you know, if the governor does veto that again, if we have the numbers to override that veto as well. I know the speaker is bringing back his centralized sales tax bill. I think that's going to be I really think that is something. I mean, I know it's gotten a little bit controversial, and I know that I think it had some unfair representation last year in the election when it failed. And like I know a lot of people when something fails at the ballot, and they look and say, "Oh, why are you bringing this back up again?" But again, I think it had some unfair representation, and I think this is going to be something that's really, really good for small businesses in the state. And I'm hopeful that we can, get the truth out there and represent it better.
No, absolutely. And the X factor with centralized sales tax collection is in the online aspect of this, and it is going to benefit the same rural parishes where the sheriff is the tax collector, would likely have more of an opposition to it because it looks like, the state would be treading on their turf. But the reality behind it is they're going to make more money.
Yeah, I mean, look, and it's certainly not just about that, but I just think that, when you're talking about a small business in Louisiana, I mean, having to pay sales tax to multiple different locations, it's just cumbersome. I mean, I've talked to several retail people around the state, and I mean, they tell me, like, it's just crazy. I mean, just trying to sift through all of it. So, we're always trying to look for ways to attract more businesses to Louisiana, and things like this are going to be incredibly helpful, and we have to do that. I mean, we have to create more jobs in this state. I love Louisiana; it's home, and I want to see it prosper. I mean, that's why I'm in the legislature, and I think that's why 99% of the people that are here are here. So, I think this bill, and I appreciate the speaker for bringing it again, and I appreciate all the people who have been trying to push it.
She is State Representative Julie Emerson. Let's get you back on towards the end of the session, see how things are wrapping up.
All right. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. I always appreciate your time. All right. 8:30, Talk 107.3 FM. We got about 15 seconds until we hit CBS News. So here's how it's going to go. CBS News, local traffic. Going to come back here for a local forecast as well. The storms are in Baton Rouge right now. It's getting nasty out there. We'll have the latest for you after this quick break. So keep it right here on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk in Baton Rouge. Oh, good Lord, she was 3. In 1991, she was 3. Jeff Johnson, first of all, good morning, sir. How is Wisconsin this morning? Secondly, Sterling K. Brown's on This Is Us. Yeah, that's where everybody knows him from. Can't stop yawning this morning. I was up over and over and over again last night. You ever wake yourself up in a jolt just because you're worried about the weather? Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm going to do the dreams come true, or the forecast of dreams come true, and then into the infrastructure. Yeah. I mean, what are we doing? What are we like? What are we doing? I don't have a dog. I no. So maybe. But what are we like? What are we doing? That's got to be debated. So hang on to that newscast. Don't delete it, because after we do the infrastructure thing, well, no, it's going to go weather, dreams come true, then the infrastructure. Just the lead couple sentences. No, just cue it back up to the, like after his intro. Yeah, it's yeah. I don't understand. Yeah. Yo. .837 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Thanks again to Julie Emerson for hopping on board. Talk a little bit about the legislative session. Right now, we were scheduled to have had Congressman Troy Carter. We do DC Current every week at this time. Congressman Carter had some travel plans change on him last minute, so he is currently in the air. He's flying back to DC. So we will resume that conversation next week. He's got a lot going on right now. A number of different community projects that we'll touch on. But my apologies. So every day I tweet out a preview of what's on the show the next day. From the time that tweet went out until now, his plans changed. And if you had seen it, and by the way, if you're not following me on Twitter, please, at Brian Haldane on Twitter. But from then till now, that has changed. So I didn't want to promise something I couldn't deliver on, because these things do happen from time to time. All right. We are in the heart of it as far as the nasty weather is concerned. Here is what we're looking at right now in Baton Rouge. The worst of the rain is passing through as we speak. Now, we're not going to be out of the clouds basically all day long. You might see a little bit of sun poke through over the next 2 hours or so. The chance of rain is going to scale back to about 50% next hour, about 30% the hour after that. Cloud coverage all afternoon, and then around 4 p.m., another 30% chance of rain pops back up before the sun gets to poke back out a little bit before we head into the evening. Now, that being said, once today's rain is over with, I'm not seeing rain back in the forecast again until, well, we have a slight chance of rain tomorrow. But all the way through the weekend until next roughly Tuesday to Wednesday. So basically that's the pattern we've been looking at here for the last couple of weeks. Every Tuesday to Wednesday, a storm makes its way through, kind of resetting the temperatures as well. As, yeah, you might be in a little bit of nastiness right now with some thunderstorms. Thank God, not nearly as bad as it was last week or the week before, but nonetheless some thunderstorms out there that you need to be careful with. But it's resetting cooler weather as it comes through. We got a high of 84 tomorrow, and then the high on Thursday tops out at 73. We thought the last round of reset on the cool was the last round of reset on the cool. Overnight low Thursday night into Friday morning, 45. Overnight low Friday night into Saturday morning, projected right now. I'm guessing it's going to turn out to be warmer than this. But Saturday morning when the sun comes up, how about 42? Yeah. Well, springtime reset, as it were. But if you're out in the nastiness right now, and if you're seeing anything bad, let us know about it. We would love any kind of feedback. It doesn't appear that any of Baton Rouge, the thunder's loud for sure, the clouds are dark for sure, and we've gotten a good chunk of rain, but it hasn't been completely over the top. All right, there's your forecast. By the way, right now we're at 73 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. The Dreams Come True Radiothon is going on all month long. Check it out at talk1073.com. We would love your help. Dreams Come True. Look, we're all in on this every single year, and I look forward to it every single year. Dreams Come True is a local outfit that makes dreams happen for children with life-threatening illnesses. Local children with life-threatening illnesses. It takes a few grand to make a dream come true, so every dollar helps. If you are so inclined, please visit talk1073.com, click through on the on the Dreams Come True Radiothon page and make a donation. I don't care if it's $5, $10, or if you can, more than that for sure. But along the way, there are certain benchmarks we meet when it comes to donations that unlock sponsored donations as well. We've found a way to take those who are sponsoring Dreams Come True and really accelerate the giving. And that involves your help. It involves going to talk1073.com and donating. That dream that might come true could be anything from a trip to Disney World to a child meeting his favorite athlete to, I want to say there was one last year where the little girl wanted to put on a fashion show. And Becky and her team made that happen over at Dreams Come True. They really do phenomenal work. I love teaming up with them every year because you could see the fruits of their labor. It's very much a hands-on experience from their end, and it really can make all the difference for a child's mindset while fighting a life-threatening illness. Dreams Come True Radiothon, donated to talk1073.com today. I was going to talk infrastructure. You heard a little bit in the news there, but I've got to address another story in the news. There's no way I don't go off on a completely idiotic rant. Did you hear Jeff Palermo in the newscast at the bottom of the hour just then? If you're watching us on YouTube, you didn't because we don't play it on YouTube, although this time around it's going to be on YouTube. Did you hear what Palermo led with right there?
The House Commerce Committee is set to discuss a bill this morning that would make it legal for the burial of pet remains with human remains at a cemetery.
What are we doing? The hell? What? This is what they're discussing right now? Out at the state capitol? The burial of pet remains with human remains? Wait, let's break this down from a couple of different angles. First of all, do you have to die at the same time as your puppy? Or are you hanging on to pet remains for some time before you can throw Fido into your casket? Oh gosh. What if you die first? Are you hanging on to, or are you just off in Fido to make sure that he can be buried with you? But I think the bigger question here is who gives a damn? We're wasting taxpayers' time going, throw the damn dog in the casket and be done with it. I don't need legislation over this. We're looking at record amounts of one-time dollars. Hopefully will be spent on infrastructure projects. A budget surplus that hopefully will serve the state in a very good way. A rainy day fund that needs replenishment after being drained by COVID-19 unemployment. And the building on the other side of downtown is going to break down whether or not you and your schnauzer can go 6 feet under at the same time. Just throw the damn dog in there. Wrap him in foil. Wrap him in foil like a swan if you're taking a to-go plate from a fancy restaurant. I don't care. Just throw the dog in. I know, Brian, you're being heartless. No, I'm not. The person's dead. The dog's dead. That's already done. I'm not looking to kill off anybody, although the timing of this is going to have to be remarkable. Like, was your window there? We don't need paperwork on this. We don't need legislation on this. Just slip the Undertaker a 50 and give him the damn dog. Go visit him at night like Veto Corleone. I want you to use all your powers and all your skills. Look at him massacred my boy. And his dog. This needs legislation. We talked about this with Julie Emerson about licensing different businesses. God forbid you get an unlicensed Undertaker. Was he got a parakeet? Yeah, throw him in there. Have at it. No. Shh. We're trying to slide this one past. Pet remains being buried with human remains. This is where we're at now. I hope this passes. I really do. No, you know what? I hope it doesn't. Because I want to see the people that come out of the woodwork to protest when it doesn't. I hope this bill fails. And you're told, no, I'm sorry. It's where the state government draws the line. You can't be buried with your dog. What kind of simple jack legislation? All right. I wanted to talk about a real bill that was going up in front of the state legislature, but shout out to Palermo. Thanks, buddy. Look, he's got to cover it because it's going on. It's not Jeff's fault that they're distracting themselves with this doo-doo. All right. Governor John Bel Edwards wants to set aside $500 million for a new Mississippi River Bridge. I'm sorry, a new Mississippi River Bridge, as the more than 60-year-old Horace Wilkinson Bridge is the new bridge right now. So the governor has this in his budget, set aside $500 million. One legislator has said it's squirreling away money. I disagree with that. But you know the bigger picture here is objections to whether or not we get a new Mississippi River Bridge are going to be wholly dependent on whether or not everyone else gets theirs. You heard the audio in the news at the bottom of the hour a minute ago. House Transportation Committee is going to consider HB 761. That is going to set aside money not for the new Mississippi River Bridge, but for a Calcasieu Bridge instead.
What we're trying to do is create a fund that will receive some of the monies and provide a funding plan for the bridge.
That is Lake Charles Representative Eric Tarver. And what Eric Tarver's getting done is the right way to handle things. If you've got a project in your backyard you need to have after, be upfront about it. Have after it. Tarver says the total price tag for construction of the bridge will likely exceed $1 billion, but notes the state has already allocated hundreds of millions to begin work on this one.
We've got about $200 million already committed, and we're trying to get another couple $100 million. I'm hoping for $300 million, and that'll give us $500 million, sort of a down payment.
You get the down payment, you put the dollars to work. You put the dollars to work, you can bond it out, you can use it for other investment as well. The bottom line is, if you're allocating these dollars now, you're actually going to get to use them. By the way, the Calcasieu River Bridge is one of 4 major projects, which includes the new Mississippi River Bridge that's seeking funding right now 4 major projects that I think most would agree are all completely worthy of the dollars. And what needs to happen now is not figuring out who's going to fight over what, but how do we make sure all 4 get funded? By the way, Tarver says one of the differences between his project and, like, let's say, a new Mississippi River Bridge, the Calcasieu Bridge, you know where it's going. The environmentals are done. All the study's been done. All the research has been done, and they're just straight up ready to roll.
We're so close, it's not even funny on the Calcasieu Bridge. I mean, there's still little hiccups here and there that could happen, but we really have the majority of the work has basically been done in terms of preparation.
Right, because you've already got a bridge. I mean, you're basically replacing it, right? What's going to go on in Baton Rouge is adding a new one. It's a whole different matrix, if you will, of issues. But the bottom line here is with the one-time dollars rolling through, they should be able to knock out a number of projects. Not just one, not just another, but as many of them as is humanly possible. And oh, by the way, if you run out of money, just slap a fee on burying your pet with you. Put that in your will. I set aside $1,000 to give back to the state to make sure Spot gets buried right next to me. Not next to me, with me. All right, let's check your money now. We'll close it out next on Talk 107.3. It's being debated in front of the legislature today. What, by throwing them in the same casket? Oh, yeah, the casket makers are going to have a problem with that. Yeah. No, I'm seeing it now, for sure. Does the bill allow for humans to be buried in a pet cemetery? Byron, that's what he says. Byron says, I'm not sure if I came back as a demon, anyone would notice the change. Byron, always asking the poignant questions. You off the pet. If you go first, you have to off the pet.
Like, you pass early, but you recently got a puppy. Like, that puppy's getting murdered. Thrown right in with you.
Right. That's when your dog gets, like, looks up and goes, that was my Scooby-Doo impression. Riverdance is 25? Oh, wow. Renee says, I have an aunt who had her pet cremated and had requested that it be buried with her. So, okay, I want to make sure that I'm 1,000% clear about my take on this. I have no hate for the person who wants to be buried with their pet. I have hate for the red tape and bureaucracy that's going to be involved in getting to be buried with your pet. Just throw the damn pet in there. I'm not a pet guy. I had a dog my entire time growing up. Like, my childhood, I had a dog. We're not home enough to warrant having a dog, and I'm going to end up losing this battle. I know that. But my level of concern is about the fact that we have to debate crap like this.
Like, of all things to address in this session, this is something that's taking the time.
Right. Well, so we had Julie.
Was it illegal before? Is it illegal now?
Is anybody complaining?
I didn't know this was an issue.
No, that's what I'm saying. Throw the damn dog in there.
Yeah, just...
Is Undertaker still the right name for that position?
Well, when you said The Undertaker, I pictured the wrestler.
Yeah, I know. Most people would.
I mean, the mental image was a lot funnier that way. Just some 7-foot dead man, just...
Yeah, no.
Choke slamming a dog into the casket.
Bonacera. Bonacera was the Undertaker's name, which, isn't that Italian for good night?
I'm not sure. I don't speak Italian.
That would be an interesting little turn if the Undertaker's name meant good night. Taylor, you speak Italian?
I do, absolutely.
Isn't Bonacera Italian for good night?
Absolutely.
All right.
Smart man. It has to be.
It was a Louis Prima song.
They're putting you to rest.
Bonacera,
It has to be.
Senorita, Bonacera. Yeah. That's right. That's the Undertaker from The Godfather. Amerigo Bonacera.
Yeah, it has to be.
You don't even think to call me Godfather. Yeah, I have no hate for those that want to be buried with their pets. Especially if the pets are still alive.
It's so bad.
Is this bill up at Louisiana Radio? I've got to know. I proposed this shit.
I'd be totally fine to spend the rest of the show talking about it.
No, we're probably going to, just because I don't feel like working.
I mean, fair. I can only imagine what it's like just being in that room, everyone dead serious at work discussing this bill. Who's raising the
It happens all the
Who's
effing
raising
time.
the counter argument that no, they shouldn't be buried together? Like this is one that should be a footnote that's passed or denied in moments, I would think.
Oh my God, LRN used a stock photo of like a dog and a cat laying down in a field together, looking all somber and sad. Menden Representative Wayne McMahon. .856 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Okay, good news. Good news. The bill by Menden Representative Wayne McMahon, it does prohibit a pet owner from euthanizing a pet when there's no medical need for the purpose of if you want to inter your pet with you. No, you can't put your pet down just because you go first. Present law defines a cemetery as a place for the burial of human remains. I want to be very, very clear about this legislation. I have no hate for the people that want to be buried with their pets. I get it. Pets are family members. I get it. But at the same time, though, they're also pets, and they're not humans. And the thought that you can't just throw Sparky in the casket with you, like I said, slide Bonacera a 50 and see what gets done. I mean, this doesn't have to be on the floor of the state capitol. This can just be on the arm. We had State Representative Julie Emerson on earlier, and I was applauding her for only having 5 bills. You go through the bill search on the legislative website, and you'll find people with 2 full pages worth of bills, proposed legislation that is just largely a waste of time. And who would this hurt? I legitimately want to know. I'm going to have to plead ignorance on this one because I would legitimately want to know, number one, who's going to know? Who's going to know? No one's going to know. Or what if the funeral's open casket? Push him down by the feet. They don't do both ends of the casket. Just push him down by the feet. Jake, get ready for it, man. This happens every year. And Palermo, by the way.
This is what it's like every year. I'm in for a ride.
No, you are. And shout out to Jeff because he's got a nose for this thing, this stuff. He will find these things and bring them to our attention. And then I get to ask questions like, the hell are we doing? All right, I'm checking the Doppler window before we get out of here because I'm actually seeing a little bit of sun possibly peek through. It looks like the worst of it, moving over to the radar, it looks like the worst of it with the storm system that's been moving through Baton Rouge the worst of it is actually north of us right now. So there's a storm system that's moving from west to east. The worst of it is north of us right now. It's looking like we're in the clear for now. If you were toughing it out there in the weather, good news. Cloud cover, partially cloudy or cloud cover for the rest of the day. There's a slight chance of some thunderstorms this afternoon as well. But when I say slight chance, it's showing up as 30%. I'm guessing we're good to go at this point. So, all right. That's going to do it for the show today. I believe Franz is back in studio tomorrow. I believe we have Congressman Garrett Graves tomorrow. Also, Hiller Moore is on the rundown as well, and a whole lot more. Might get caught up with new schools for Baton Rouge as well. So, all right, let's get you out of here. We'll hand things off to the Fox News rundown. I believe Kilmeade has a guest host today. And then don't forget Dave Ramsey, and then Jada Cody drives you home this afternoon. Check out Dreams Come True over at talk1073.com, and we will see you tomorrow. So I had a dog named Sparky. That's why I brought up Sparky. All right. So, Byron, I'm not reading your last comment, but I am getting out of here. Y'all have a great day. Try to stay dry out there. The streets are still wet, even if they're not raining right now. So be safe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Later on.